Hi everyone, I'm going to do a reading on Delphi. This might be part 3 or 4. I believe I created a folder for Delphi because I thought that I thought there'd be a lot to read on this, whether it's psychic downloads or readings. And I thought that it would be televised or there'd be cameras, but apparently there's no cameras allowed. And I think last week either they finished jury selection and started the trial, or they had a full week. I am not quite sure, because when I found there's no cameras, I was like, okay, then probably what's allowed in is maybe like court TV, law and crime, and that means just getting bullet points. It's different to watching the trial, so I don't know about that. But what we're going to do is, so I don't really know like if they've had full jury and they started the trial from the beginning of the week or the end of the week, and I don't know what's being said, and I dare say you have to use your discernment about what's coming out. Let me know what you think about this whole thing about no cameras. I mean, in the UK we don't have cameras, but you see like drawings and audio, and there's no audio in this as well. So there's two things here. Obviously it gets protected from I'm not sure if they're doing it because of minors, you know, it's minors and protecting the whole thing around them. But there is a protection from social media, but at the same time, there's a risk there of having whoever like takes notes and maybe broadcasts or stuff, then someone else taking those notes and saying, so this is what, you know, I've got, and I don't know, there might just be a lack of transparency. And we know that the justice system is supposed to be fair, but it's not always fair. So some things are not going to get out. I mean, if there's a reporter there that's sworn that they cannot talk about this, they're not going to be able to come back. And maybe there's some true crime podcasters. So I think it's, I don't know, it's a bit of a twofold. I mean, if there's nothing transparent, how do we know it's fair? The justice system should be fair, but it's not always fair. It will help calm social medias going about it, but then messages and information can be misconstrued from whoever wants to handle what does come out. But it can definitely, if a verdict is done and people are not happy about it, it can definitely stop the large protests in the mid of the trial. It might also be to try and protect the jurors from knowing so much. And I already get a download that there's going to be an issue with the juror. And I could just leave it as an issue with the juror. I do think there's an issue there. It could be that they're a bit privy to maybe a bit more than what they should know. Are they allowed to know like the actual like scene of it without being taken there? I don't know. But like, I don't know, there's going to be an issue with the juror. I also think there might be a high possibility of a mistrial. By the way, when I say think, okay, I'm not just thinking thoughts, because I had a stupid comment on a reading and I was trying to explain what I see. But when I see things that are very traumatic and impactful, I'll give examples of like what I see as opposed to delivering that energy. And it's people that don't understand that make random comments that it's just your thinking, but it's not your psychic download. So I'm not going to continuously say, or I psychically see. I'm just going to say, I see, I think, and it's based on downloads, right? I can't think that a juror is going to have an issue just like randomly give you thoughts. Anyone can have thoughts, right? And it's all about validations that come through. And people don't respect energy put out there. Some of like that reading I didn't want to do, but Spirit was pushing me, and I actually wanted to take a break from the platform that's giving me That's not helping. There's a lot of issues with the channel's analytics that proves there's no support from the platform. So, whinge aside, I think I've got a very mature subscribers, but I just want to put that out there. If I say I think, I mean, it's a download I have, right? Absolute idiots, some people. Anyway, so what we're going to do is check in on Richard Allen. We are, disclaimer, for entertainment purposes only. Please use your own fact finding. And check in on the jury. What do I want to see about the jury? Yeah, see if anything comes up. I want to go into what could be in the prosecution's favor, what could be in the defense's favor. And I also want to see, because it would have started last week, or they've had at least a day of a trial, it means they've had their opening statement. So how did that go down? Okay, so let's check on Richard Allen. I presume now he's allowed to wear his what do you call it, normal clothes, or like suited and booted. Can you remember in one of my readings, I think it might have been the first, I said that there's actually 4 pictures of who they think it is, and like a couple of them are built on just mixing what witnesses have seen with the last picture. And I know there's 2 out there, but I do fully believe there's 4. And 2 might not have been released, but there is 4 with police. I do believe that there's multiple. And in terms of, I know that I'm going into a question I've not asked yet, but it's downloads. In terms of the defense, I think, you know, there's one picture of a younger guy, then there's one picture that looks like Richard Allen. But if the defense become privy to more than one picture, it could be in their favor that, like, look, this young guy doesn't look like him. These are the 3 guys, if they don't look like him, but then there's got that one picture, so that might be a risk. And then the prosecution, obviously, that's in the prosecution's favor, and the defense's favor is that's the other picture, and if there's anything hidden, they see that there's other drafts that don't look like Richard Allen, is in their favor. So the pictures or the sketches could work in anyone's favor, and I think it's, to me, it's actually more confusing for the jury to see it. And with the downloads I've had, remember I said this case has pressure to convict someone and close it. And I think, or I see, or I psychically get download that that's why a lot of things are going to be, this is allowed, that's not allowed, or it has been. And the sketches probably indicate how police didn't know what they were actually looking for. And I do believe that. Like, this is 7 years ago, isn't it? I don't think Richard Allen's been in jail for 7 years, so it took a very long time for them to get to somebody, and there's still a reasonable doubt, right? And if sketches, those 2 sketches are brought in, they don't even look alike, but there is at least 2 more sketches with the police. Do you know what I see? Like, you know, in those head investigators' offices where they've got the sketches and then the map time and stuff on a board, they've got like 4 sketches. I can't see that coming out, but let's see. I mean, maybe anyone saw of the motions or the pre-trial, if something about sketches is discussed, but I think it's going to confuse the jury. And not only confuse the jury, I think it's going to show, well, I just totally get that the police didn't know where they're looking, what they're looking for. There wasn't solid evidence. got that from the beginning, but I got a pressure that they just need to convict someone right now and close the case. You know, from my previous readings, I do believe RA is guilty, but there's somebody else who's more guilty. And so will justice be ever done? No, because if someone else is more guilty, and please check out those readings, convicting one for, I mean, he probably has 4 or 5 convictions he's up for, you know, like at the end when the jury has to select first degree for Libby, first degree for Abby, intent or something, whatever. I think he's got about 4 or 5. And, you know, if the gun is his, is he got a license for an armed weapon? That could be additional or something like that. Anyway, so how is Richard Allen feeling now that his trial has started? How is he feeling? Very strong cards here. He's feeling a bit more stable. It seems like he's feeling his voice is heard a bit more. All of them. These cards, by the way, they're not all angels. They're actually, look, can you see there's an angel, there's an angel. There's about 7 angels only because it's this chakras. And look at this. Out of like, I think it's 60 cards or something like that, you've got 3 angels. And so here we've got a very strong stability, with 3 is very important. I get an energy that there could be a female assistant lawyer or a female with his lawyers. I don't get his lawyer is a female, but the second or assistant, there's a female energy here with the numbers. It's interesting. His focus is his throat chakra, his heart chakra, and his base chakra, which is probably going to be challenged as well. His voice heard, but obviously, does he have guilty knowledge? Well, you check my readings. His need to be grounded and stable at this moment in time is being activated, and his heart, because it's a very difficult situation. I do get that he might crack at one point, find it very, very difficult when they're going into pictures and the actual story details of what happened to these girls, especially if it discusses S.A. Now, there's a difference between S.A. and R.A.P.E. And also, S.A. doesn't have to be the whole sexual activity of insertion of, this is so hard, a male's private parts in a female's private parts. It can be something else. It can also be pervy ideas, which I think he's going to have difficulty at that point for reasons. Okay. But there's a very, when I was looking at the faces that could have been up for questioning, there's somebody who's very, very evil. His energy is horrific. And I think it was Brad Holder. I need to check again. But I know that out of that, there was Patrick, who was a previous convict, I believe. There was Ron, but it was Brad who, his energy is horrific. Anyway, going back to here. I don't know if does Richard Allen have a swap over of attorneys at some stage? I do want to ask, how's he feeling about his attorneys? He has wavered. He thinks there's something that's probably not been allowed in the case that was his winning aspect. I think he feels that his, let me just check the time, sorry. His winning aspect was something that's not been allowed in the case. That would have been a strong point for the defense. At this moment in time, he's trying to trust his lawyers with the long-term vision of what they see of the outcome. But he is kind of, do you know when you're worrying about every little thing along the way? But he's trying to move with the lawyers, as in, no, eventually it'll work out. Don't get stuck on what was said today or what is said right now, every little pinpoint. It will unravel the way we need to question, cross examine, and I think that's what he's trying to focus on. Split the deck, Four of Wands, which is the eventual, hopefully, what his lawyers are saying, you know, kind of victory and you returning home. Okay, I don't mean hopefully as in the outcome being that. What I mean is like what he's trying to see. Okay, so I was going to just look up if he's had a change of lawyers. There's something there where he feels like he's had a setback in something not being included, and I dare say it's going to be the Odinism that they were like gambling on. So let's just see how his lawyers are feeling actually, and then let's see how their opening was. I'm getting told to go to the original tarot deck. Although his lawyers might not be stating it, they believe, it's interesting, I felt this came out in reverse and I put it upright without, but they believe there's certain choices that the big boss, the judge, has made that has been out of just a kind of irrational kind of, no, there's not enough proof here, we're not going to include it. No, and there's a lot of like no's, and there hasn't been a looking at, I feel they don't feel like they've been treated fairly, okay, in terms of what can be included. It feels like they'll come up with something, each side to have something, then they're stuck, okay, they're not able to move forward with, you know, what they present. And this is not only around Odism, by the way, this is something beyond that as well. So they must have raised more than the Odism that's been shut out, okay, ruled in the other one's favor. It's like, and that's where they feel their failure is. That's where they feel their lack of strong points are, okay. Split the deck, and there's a lot of toing and froing. They know it's going to be a difficult defense case. They know it's going to be a difficult defense case. Okay, so let's see, how did their opening statements come across? Was it strong? Was it weak? This is the defense, yeah, Richard Allen side. Okay, I get their defense was actually very well presented. I felt like I would get more major arcana. Split the deck. No. Okay, so I get that it came across very well. It wasn't like a rampage of defense, like the other side are just talking a load of BS, you know. Some cases you go in, then they're kind of like all what the state is presenting is a load of BS, rumors, and nothing is built. No, this was kind of like a more harmonized defense where Yes, they're pointing out where the doubt was, where the lack of proof is, but they've done it in a very understandable way for the jury, for the people watching. Yet it's very believable. And at the same time, there's an element of compassion for the families here, for their loss and their lack of peace. There is something that might have caused a little bit of like reasonable doubt already for the jury. For me, the defense's opening statements were a success. I think that might be surprising to some people. Let's check in on the state. How are they feeling in this case? I've got a feeling they feel quite strong, you know. How are the state feeling? Told you they feel quite strong. They have some stuff that nobody knows about, and I was going to come to this actually, and what I believe works in each one's favor. I believe this stuff, and I said it in my first read, that we don't know about. Like by the end of it, those of us that are kind of like confused will be like, no, I'm dead set on this outcome that I believe it is. At the moment, they're confused, and they have something hidden that they will be presenting. I believe it will be around DNA. I believe it will be around something that was hidden in an area, or you know, a motive around that. But they need to be patient. They felt it was very successful, very different energy to the defense. This energy is like, we've got it all in hands, and they were just rolling forward with their statement. The defense, I feel, seemed to be a bit more in balance of harmony, and also it'd be interesting to know if they said something in compassion to the family, because I get that. Let's look at their opening statements. How did it come? How was it delivered? How was it received? Just trying to think of taking them in order. Okay. It was received very well. Okay. It was very much like, do you know when you deliver something and it's kind of like, how can anyone heal from this? They really planted that seed in their statement. Like, the heartbreak and overcoming of this is extremely difficult. Their statement is like, and without you, jury, we will not be able to reach the justice we need in this case, because there is really unhealed elements. Now, one thing that I was getting is that I think what could have been really good if this was televised and cameras on is that the community, and Spirit is reminding me on this with the cards, is that the community, I think, will be a lot more peace had it been televised, because there's still going to be questions, and I think this community has really been shaken by what's happened, because I believe it's a small community, and it's kind of like, well, we don't know if they have the person, they didn't have the person, and even at that, there's a lot of people that have been, you know, there's been other suspects that could have been questioned, whether they're alive or not. It's kind of like these were hidden in the background, and then this horrific thing. I think it's shaken the community, and I think it would have been better for it to be televised for the community. Okay, separate note, download there. So they came across really well. They came across that they're holding their ground. They know what they're talking about. They were also very, but they also gave a little bit of that, you know, kind of long, strong statement, and then they held back a little bit. All right. And there was the element of unhealed pain and trauma in this, and we need your help for justice. Okay, so things that could work in the defense's favor. I have like made notes on my downloads, but I'm going to pull cards while I do that. So firstly, in the defense's favor, I think what they could say is, you know, that they say it's Richardallen's pew pew. Well, I don't think a pew pew was shot, was it? Because in the read, I got like there was a sharp object basically used, and a pew pew would have been heard. Another thing that I wanted to say, I don't know, it's probably the defense's favor. I really don't understand how these girls were, apparently things was done to them and then they were X'd and then they were just left there or moved there from one end of the bridge to down by the creek undressed. Then one of them was dressed, and this was a day off. Like I believe that it was a holiday, or they were given a day off. There was other people, there must have been other people there. Wouldn't there have been a scream, something like that? So that could work in the defense's favor, but also the pellet or the not the shaving, is it the cover of the bullet? Whatever it is, whatever they found, I think it's kind of like fine. But what marking on it can tell you that it came from RA's pew pew? And if RA's pew pew is a very popular pew pew, it's going to be very difficult for them to put that on. Yes, they might have an expert around that, but machines make these bullets, don't they? It's not like there's an RA engraved on the bullet or the cave or the shell or the pellet or whatever, is there? So it's kind of like, and also the bodies, this is another one, the bodies weren't found till the next day, was they? So there was a period of shutdown of searching, a period of that area, no one there. So the bodies, go back to my reading to know what I believe in the story, could have been moved, could have been put there, right? So I think that's in the defense's favor. I know that last week I kept seeing like thumbnails of hair found in Abby's hand, not RA's, in a lot of thumbnails. That for me, I don't feel is a massive bombshell of cut dry, that RA's not involved in this. RA as in Richardallen, because it could have been a hair from the home, it could have been a hair from one of the other people's homes, relatives, whatever, you know. So unless, yeah, and it's not his, so unless it's like, for example, RA's wife's, or unless it's a relative of one of the girls' family, obviously one of the family rules it out. But if it's RA's wife, then it can tie him to it. But I don't think it's that big of a bombshell until we know whose hair it could be. Okay, so it could work in the defense, it might not. I also feel like the police really didn't know what on earth they're doing and who they're looking for. And again, like I said, the sketches will work in each other's favor in a certain way, but it could also work against them. So, you know, I don't know how it's going to end up working for them. But I do think there's big questions around law enforcement's investigation, either with tampered evidence, evidence not included, even maybe people they've interviewed not including it. Once they honed in on RA, it was kind of like exclude. I'm not giving you facts here. These are my downloads. I know it might sound like I'm telling you factual stuff. No, I'm giving you my downloads here. obviously what won't work, what would be in the prosecution's favor is RA has said he was there, he was seen there, and he was seen wearing what they call bridge guys, or he was allegedly wearing what bridge guy was supposed to be wearing, so that's the prosecution's favor. um in all from my downloads, by the way, if I take from my downloads and not facts, my previous readings, I don't think the timeline works in favor of the prosecution, because for me the timeline doesn't work in terms of what happened. So you can check my readings. So it should work in the defensive favor if they hone in on the timeline. How they can do it on a factual base, I'll see if I get more downloads and with the cards. But for me, with my psychic story, where the police say they were X'd at this time, this happened at this exact time, the 1 hour slot, the timing is a bit, there's a bit more to that timing. Prosecution probably have the element, like I said, that I believe there's strong pressure to convict, sentence and close this case regardless, but obviously try and do it in a justified way. And I feel like the judge is very much on it. I'm not listening to any airy fairy. You give me solid proof and it might be included. And I feel like the judge, because of what I've just said, is probably in the prosecution's favor. But I mean, she might be very fair, and I say she because what I understand the name is Francis. So unless the surname is Francis, but I believe it's Francis. Okay, so now I'm going to pull the cards to know what I also think, you know, in my previous read I mentioned about a car. I think there's going to be cars in question, whether it's Richard Allen's or a car maybe waiting by. Like I said, check my previous reads. I think something might come up about that. So will it be in whose favor? I think the defense's favor is going to be there's a lot of there's circumstantial evidence, but you're not giving me solid evidence. But you know, in my first reads, I mentioned about they need like where he says guys or girls down the hill, a voice thingy, like to you know, a voice tester to see if it actually is Richard Allen's. Um, like I said, there's somebody else involved here. Richard Allen is at the kind of like not the main involved, but was not the main culprit. Let's see. Let me ask the question. Defense's favor is the younger sketch, and also possibly someone who is has a prior. I don't think they can bring third party, but I think they're going to try and bring that in some way where they can then say, well, this has opened the door up, you've opened the door up, and I get a yes with that. So something will come up around this, and it'll be like, well, you've opened the door up, so sorry, but we need to bring this third party in. This person could be a previous convict or tried to lure little girls or something like that. And I get a yes with that. So that's what they might try to do. Whether it will be successful or not, I'm not quite sure. Hold on a minute. I'm looking for... Okay, no, it's fine. So we get a yes with that. Like bringing something back in that could actually be solid proof, or at least reasonable doubt. What more? And there's something more I want to channel with that. Yeah, the police being very focused and because they've been burdened, they've not found something. There's someone within the force that are quite, it's kind of like, no, cut this out, it needs to be this, don't look at, like, no, I'm telling you it needs to be this, and they needed to get something. But I think there's like a skipping over of proof, and not visiting stuff. Like I said, there's kind of like tampered evidence, things that were left too long, and how do you know no one touched them, and or played with it or whatever. And I think there was evidence lost when they went to when they decided that either evidence that should have been taken directly at the time was not taken, but also I feel like this could be interviews that were lost. Some recordings were lost, and some was just not taken in at the time. Okay, it was kind of like, I don't want to look at that. I've got something on the state, but I'm going to try and continue. I do think the defense are going to be surprised by something that comes up. Obviously, defense should know something, and they will feel like it's undeniable, but it's not. Like, it can be deniable. There's like a solid evidence, but it can be deniable if it's looked at from a different direction. I don't know if they're going to pick up on that. One thing is definitely, remember, like I said, this does not eliminate two people or more in this case. And I think the jury need to be reminded of that. And I think I'm just going to say it, one of the prosecution's strengths, no, let me just wait, okay. So what more for the defense? I hope I remember what I wanted to say. A female who had seen someone else as it was going into the later afternoon walking away. Okay, so somebody who saw somebody possibly wearing similar to what was described, but they were not. The time frame, again, someone as a witness is seen something, and it's a later different time frame than what the prosecution is calling up. So time frame, and police were very limited once they had one direction in the way they were looking. I definitely think the unspent bullet is in their favor. Do you know something else? There was BL blood on the tree, wasn't there? Now, was that a spatter, or was it actually picking up blood and putting a mark on the tree? An expert should be able to say what that is, and I think they're not going to be able to say it. They're not going to be able to say it was Richard Allen, basically, but also they can't, because it's been ruled out about Odinism. They're going to have to really prove that the splatter from, and I'm getting here, the splatter from the object used by the, for, the it's not blunt force, it's the this, when you use one of these to X or make, you know, cut, let's just say cut, could that splatter be on the tree from, because I don't think he had like something really, really big. Could that be? And I think the defense should be able to win on that element, even though they will get, you know, they need a, the prosecution might get, or they might not if they feel it won't rule in their favor, but there has been somebody who can testify on the blood splattering pattern on how it would be. Could it be caused from what the weapon would have been? And if it was like intentional, or if it was a splatter, was it done at that time or not? The thing that I wanted to say in terms of, also in terms of the defense, he confessed, didn't he, to 60 plus times. I think there's something about that 60 plus times that's not accurate. And that could be in the defense's favor. I think they need to see how he said it. Did he say it in a hysteria? Did he say it with details that no one would know unless he was at the crime scene? These things are going to be in a favor of, I think some of it is in favor of defense, while in prosecution that he's actually said it is in their favor. And it comes down to his mental health not being very well at the time. But that is what I'm seeing here as well. It's like things that I'm being reminded of while I'm kind of downloading. Like he was in a really bad place during that, you know, during the confessions time, and they will be stating about the psychological element of this for him, these cards. Okay, so the prosecution has that in their winning terms as well. But, and they also have in their favor is the alibi that the defense is putting on actually pinpointing to someone directly, or is it just sounding a bit waffly to confuse the jury? Because they're not allowed any third party, or to mention any third party, so it's very difficult for them. So it was really interesting to see that their statement and the way they presented was actually strong. I think something else as well is that because I got this in, I get this as a download, to be honest. If somebody has a gun, you don't have to prove that it has to be someone who would X two girls. I think it shows that it wasn't a professional. I think there could be an argument that you don't need a professional to do this. And if somebody has a gun, well, you're going to be frightened anyway. So a pew pew, crap. You're gonna have a pew pew, and you're going to be frightened. It doesn't matter how big or small the person is. But remember, as my downloads, I believe there was a second person. There's a second person involved in this, and I do believe there was movement beyond that little area. You can check the readings out, and why I'm not going into it is because I don't want to repeat stuff. There's a female that's going to be very important in the prosecution's favor. Yeah, females here, and also the judge. The judge, the way she's ruling is working out in the females' favor. Evidence that the police may have is going to work in the prosecution's favor. But I think you know, a lot of it is to do with the judge, and I think she's a female, obviously. Their alibi or their long-term kind of thing why this happened, or the whole journey timeline is going to make sense, but there is reasonable doubt here. There's things that are very, very clear, but there is reasonable doubt. And when they feel like it's going off track, they're going to pull the jury into, well, this is key evidence, this is solid evidence, don't get pulled off track. A female is very important. I don't know if this is that, you know, maybe who he confessed with, a female witness. I think it's a few female. The female energy for the prosecution is very important and paramount here, and we can see this. I also feel like the again, it could work in, I've seen it in the defense, but from a prosecution stage, they have an argument in terms of the bullet or the shell or whatever being part of belonging to Richard Allen's pew. And the defense will need to show why that's not. Maybe because what I would say as a download I'm getting is, you know, like I said, does it have his initials on it? It could be anyone's pew. I mean, also a testing I'm getting to show that it was a fresh pew unspent, as opposed to one that was just there maybe from someone else carrying a gun, is going to be important. Like the time frame of its exposure to the environment is very important. These are the elements I'm getting along with what I've stated. You also, I do think there's a bit of DNA here, like I said, and there's relative, what did I say in the first couple of readings that are going to be key in this? That is coming up again. Relative DNA is also coming up. And yeah, we see the judge's energy here. Split the deck. We've got, yeah, I mean, it's here, it's very strong. So that's what I have for you. If you enjoyed this, please do let me know. I do want to ask, I was going to pull a question, but I'm going to leave it for you guys to decide, and then I can share my download on what my answer would be psychically, along with the outcome of this. So my question to you is, do you think it being a jury selected trial or a bench trial would work more in whose favor? So would it work best in the defense or the prosecution's favor? If it was, so you might say, yeah, I think the jury will work best in the defense's favor as opposed to a bench trial. So do you think the defense's favor would be better in a jury trial, which they have, or a bench trial where there's no jury, it's directly with the judge at the decision and the sentencing? Okay, so let me know your comments, and if you would like me to share my download along with what would be an outcome, we can do that. Please, if you enjoyed the reading, give it a like. You can subscribe, you can join Patreon's members, you can also donate to the channel. But let me know in the comments if you enjoyed the read, and let me know what your thoughts and answers are. Are you watching this? Are you following up? Are you getting, and who are you watching for this? Are you watching like Law and Order? Why am I getting Law and Order? It's Law and Crime as well. Was there something before? I think there was a TV program, wasn't there, Law and Order? That's interesting. I wonder if there's something. I'm getting an episode that could have insights. That's weird. Okay, well, I'll leave it here. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one, everyone. Bye for now.